Apologies for 9:06. Morning, Dale. Morning, Alex. Welcome to Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer Down here. John, hear you there. And, yeah, it was a couple different things. It was trying to get everything ready, trying to remember what my name is, and trying to pour the morning soda. So I was balancing on a bunch of different things coming in here at 9:06. And it's going to be the standard reaction Monday, and there's a lot to react to. Atlanta United 4-1 winners over New England Revolution. We'll be getting into that for as much of the show as you guys want, because we'll have Abe Gordon coming up in just a little bit, maybe Garrett Chapman coming up in just a little bit from 92.9 The Game, hosts of your pre and post on the Atlanta United Radio Network at 92.9 The Game. That'll take care of our number one. 10 o'clock, we get our visit from Bart Keeler from the Soccer for US POD. The U.S. Women's National Team, they did okay. Got a win last night, 1-0 out in San Diego. Didn't have to worry about the weather. And so we'll talk U.S. Women's National Team with Bart. We'll talk reffing down here with Bart, because there were some things to get into there. Maybe bleed into a little Prem and Proper. Drew Dickinson and the host of the 3D will be hopping in at 10:30 if he can find a conference room that's quiet. And he'll be discussing everything that happened Prem and Proper. Everything's on the table. Anything's on the table. Whatever you guys want to talk about this morning, it is right there for all of you. Morning, Michael. It was great to catch up with Michael and the boss yesterday. We kind of got into a bit of a pre-show discussion last night as they were walking their new pup. And so it was cool to catch up with Michael. And like I said, we'll get into all of this stuff coming up this morning here on the morning show. As always, thanks for hanging out with us as you always do, whether it is on the YouTubes or on the 280 character app or on the Twitters. And opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there's your QR code for those of you who are hanging out with us on either Twitch or the YouTubes or on the 280 character app. You use the QR code, go to our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code SOCCERDOWNHERE15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Now, I don't know if you heard about this, and the tail end of this story happened this morning, so we might have to build it backwards a little bit. I don't know how many of you watch Serie A on a regular basis, but a side in Serie A sacked their head coach over the weekend. And I mean, traditionally, and Nick can speak to this probably more than anybody, but when it comes to Serie A, they've got management that is hair trigger. I mean, if something's going wrong, then they are going to sit there and they're going to fire you, and they won't think twice about it. 20 teams, bottom three get relegated. And, it's, fairly standard when it comes to relegation and survival and things like that. Lecce, for those of you that may not know, Lecce is in 15th place, 25 points, and they're a part of the discussion toward that third relegation spot. You have 7 teams separated by 3 points for the final 2 relegation spots in the league. Over the weekend, they sacked their coach. And I know you're thinking, okay, I get it. They're struggling. They're grappling a little bit. And so they fired their head coach. They sacked their head coach, Roberto D'Aversa, after he appeared to headbutt Hellas Verona's Thomas Henry following the full-time whistle after Sunday's match between the two teams. And for context, Hellas Verona is one of those 7 that is there. That's part of the whole relegation battle. D'Aversa and Verona forward Henry both shown a red card by referee Daniela Cifi. Lecce released a statement in which they strongly condemned Diversa's actions, adding that they were contrary to the principles and values of sport. U.S. Lecce announced that they've relieved Roberto Diversa of his duties after the events that occurred at the end of Lecce and Verona. Thanks go to the coach and his staff for the work done. Lecce lost the match 1-0, a result which leaves them 15th place in Serie A, 1 point above 18th place Frosinone, which is what we're talking about. 7 teams, 3 points, 2 relegation spots in Serie A. Diversa had been appointed as Lecce coach at the start of the season, signing a 1-year deal with a further 12-month option if they avoided relegation. Previously managed Virtus Lanciano, Parma, and Sampdoria. So basically, you lose a match. You're mad for whatever reason, and then you decide, in what we always seem to hear as the moment of madness, that you headbutt an opposing player. It's like you're a coach. You're a coach. You lose, and you headbutt an opposing player after you lose. So that's what we were experiencing in Serie A. So basically, dude gets mad, headbutts an opposing player, gets sacked. Team still in a relegation battle. Nothing really changed. So that's what we're kind of getting into. Some dudes, they just feel like, moment of madness. You know what? I'm mad. I'm going to headbutt an opposing player. And apparently there's video out. So anything is possible, but don't headbutt an opposing player. I think that is our lesson for the morning. If you're a coach, don't headbutt an opposing player, because then, especially if you lose, you get sacked. There you go. So that's your opening kickoff. And your lesson for the day, don't headbutt opposing players, especially if you're a coach. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code. For those of you who are watching on Twitch, on the 280-character app, or on the SDH YouTube channel, all of our social media, once again, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest in youth games, youth initiatives, stuff that they have earmarked. Once again, thanks to our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I tried to filibuster to 9:15. It didn't work. So I'm going to bring him in 2 minutes early. Like I said, Abe Gordon from 92.9, he is on the Tom Coughlin schedule. He is like on time, and in that means 5 minutes early. And so Abe gets to listen to the opening kickoff ramblings every single week. He's not rushing in. He's not rushing in, sitting there and sitting down. When I cue the camera, he's not just rushing in, sitting down in the seat, throwing on the headphones like some folks may do with their shifts. It's like rushing in. Oh, it's like, I got 40 seconds. Oh, crap. You run in, open the door, sit down. You hear the door creak in the headset before you go on the air. The on-air sign goes on. Those kinds of things. So it is that time where, as traditionally what we do, 9:15-ish, we bring in folks to talk about what happened. Morning, Abe.
What's going on, John? I appreciate you having me as always. Look, I'm an old school fight fan. I say it's not a real headbutt if you don't draw blood. So that's my barometer for damage on those.
I'm down with that. I being the old wrestling guy that I am myself, if it's a true headbutt, and not one of those where it's like you headbutt your hand, but the actual ones where you're mad at the guy and you really want to headbutt him and kind of concuss the both of you. I see where you're going. But have you ever, in your athletic endeavors or in your sports talk radio career, have you ever headbutted an opponent?
I mean, I've gone like head-to-head on a ball in the air, something like that. So an accidental headbutt within the realm of play, not like I'm angry and my bet. I would push or punch someone. I'm not throwing my own head into the line of damage. Maybe a short elbow, one of those. But
a short shot.
No, I've never headbutted someone in that realm.
Okay, so then let's ask Garrett. Garrett, have you ever headbutted an opponent in any circumstance, ever in your competition, whether it be athletic endeavor or sports talk radio endeavor? Have you ever headbutted another host?
No, I cannot say that I've ever headbutted a host. I have given an elbow. I've given a sharp elbow when I played basketball. I mean, when you play soccer or something like that too, it's like you gotta establish space. As they teach, you get the rebound in basketball and you put the elbows out and you clear out space. But headbutts, no, not a headbutt. I can't say I can do that.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because our opening kickoff this morning was the situation that happened in Italy, where the coach got mad He loses a match 1-0. He's in a relegation fight, and then after the whole thing is done, he decides he's going to headbutt an opposing player. That's why I was asking. That was opening kickoff this morning.
Oh man.
Uh-huh.
Well, that reminds me of what was the Italy and in France in the World Cup. You know, they get the red card for the big headbutt right in the middle.
Oh yeah,
in the middle of the chest.
Yeah, the Zidane headbutt, the legendary Zidane headbutt, and that was it was. But yeah, I mean that was like a player who goaded another player. Dude headbutts him, and all the the whole soccer world goes berserk. But yeah, you had an older coach headbutting an opposing player after a loss, and so that was why I figured I would ask this morning if the two of you had had those kinds of incidents. But since Garrett, I know you're the short timer, we'll go ahead and start with you. 30,000-foot view 36 hours later of the dominant 4-1 win, where we got our first hat trick of Boom Yaka. So I guess it'd be Boom Yakamaki for the year. I'm trying
Yakamaki.
Yeah, trying to think of the plural. So 36 hours later, what's on your mind?
It's just as dominant as it was then. I mean, it was a fantastic match, and the way it started, it was very 50-50. We talked about this on the full-time report with Mike Conti and Jason Longshore. It was a pretty 50-50 match up until that penalty kick right at the 45th minute. And honestly, it felt like they were trying to push through, and it felt like it was coming. And then all of a sudden, they were able to really get through it. And then they come back in the second half, and then just the floodgates just opened. And the defending was strong. The back line was sound. I loved the communication between Gregerson and Derek Williams. I mean, ultimately, it was a fantastic match. And you could see the patience that the back line had pushing the ball forward, and they created opportunities for the attack. And honestly, Mike Conti talked about it. It's like the identity that the defense is forming right now is very exciting to see, especially based on how dominant we know that this attack can be. We saw that on Saturday. We also saw some really strong defending, which I think is just all signs pointing good for Atlanta United.
All right, so Abe, since Garrett has opened 2 doors this morning, do you want to go with the new guys in general, or do you want to go with the trident at the back and talking about Bartosz Slisz, Derek Williams, and the 6'5" lockdown free safety known as Stian Gregers? Your choice.
Yeah, and we talked about it heading into this game. And that was Carlos Gil, a one-time MLS MVP. And what are you going to do to prevent him from having an impact on this game the way you want Thiago Almada for yourselves to have an impact on this game? And I do think that triumvirate in the back did an outstanding job of defending him, and more specifically, preventing him from getting going, preventing him from getting the ball at all. And look, I know he scored late and he had a nice touch and a good goal, and that's fine. It's already 4-0. Your defense kind of shifted the mentality at that point, but he was relatively invisible through the important parts of this match. And that just goes to show you how they can focus in on a goal for a game and execute it. And the purpose of them in this game against New England was to prevent from Carlos Gil from having an impact. And they did that. And it makes you wonder how much more they can do of that against other team stars moving forward, whether it's, we're not going to say they're going to shut down Lionel Messi and Kellen Acosta. There are plenty of guys who you need to control to prevent their opposing team's offense from running. They did it against New England. It's exciting to see maybe how they can do that a couple more times this season as well.
All right, so let me flip it to the offense, Garrett, and what we got to see and the relationships that we've been, fostering in our brains. You look at what we got to see with Saba and his activity on the right-hand side, coordinating with Thiago and Gigi, et cetera. You also have Brooks Lennon, who seems to be getting the relationships and the familiarity working. Obviously, we look at that one goal where Brooks is basically he's on the dead run. He pulls the air brake, as Mike likes to say, and then he puts he puts just enough touch on it on the cross, and Gigi powers it home with the header. The relationships, especially up the right-hand side offensively, this is what happens when you end up getting a full training camp with folks, and you can kind of sit there and go, okay, this is what you mean.
Absolutely. And you talk about Thiago Almada, too, the way he was able to really come along strong in that second half of that first match against Columbus. You really started to see them settle in. in the second half of that one. But then it just went full throttle on Saturday. And a lot of that is just the way they're able to find space and play into that space and utilize it very effectively. Saba did an exceptional job at that. And it's not something that shows up on the stat sheet. It's not something that'll show up and people can point to it necessarily. But, he is one of the biggest reasons that we were able to see that third goal from Yorgos Giakoumakis. And he opened up the space for Brooks Lennon. And it's just that attack is so potent. And when you have guys like that who are able to play within that system and just occupy that space, it makes this offense just so lethal. And they're at their best when they're scoring goals. We talked about that during pregame specifically. If you score 2 or more goals, they're winning 81 matches all time. And they've only lost 7. It's overwhelmingly an offensive team. And it's just been the identity of Atlanta United for the last couple of years. But this year especially, they're going to be able to get out there in space. And a lot of that comes from the back. Brooks Lennon, the way he's able to play forward, that relationship that he has with those guys in attack, it's very fun to watch. It's a lot of fun,
Garrett Chapman, Abe Gordon hanging out with us as they always do in the A block here on your Monday for Reaction Monday here on the morning show here on SDH. So, Abe, let me ask you this. When it comes to the continued growth of the new guys, we mentioned Bartosz Slisz running 8 miles in match week 1. I don't think he ran that many in match week 2 because he was in more control. Derek Williams, who looks like Derek has, for the moment, taken the job, one of the center back spots away from Luis Abram, who was the favorite. He was the incumbent coming into 24. Derek Williams has shown that you have that the veteran experience for almost being the Department of Redundancy department. And Gregerson, you look at the defense there. Once again, it's something that you can build off of. You put 4 on the board offensively. You lock down Carlos Heel, like you mentioned. And I think that once again, it's another week where that triumvirate, that triangle at the back and the spine, gets to learn each other and figure things out.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Derek Williams. That was one of our big surprises in the opening match. We really didn't know who was going to be alongside Stian Gregerson. And when it did get announced that it was Williams, it's like, okay, this is a veteran. He's played a lot of MLS matches. You brought him in for a reason. Maybe it was to start. But I don't know if we probably expected the performance to be at this level this quickly from him. I think we expected Gregerson to be very strong pretty immediately with his physicality, with his size, with his speed, the combination of touch, everything that he presents. But Williams has been a pretty strong revelation, and it doesn't work. Bartosz Slisz, Gregerson, it doesn't work if he's not competent at the back as well. So he's been probably as important as anyone in terms of adding to this team, coming in and shoring up a defense that we knew needed to be shored up from what we saw a season ago. And so he's been probably the biggest reason, in my opinion, that the team has given up just 1 goal each in each of the first 2 games. And obviously on that third or on that third goal there, he kind of started it from way deep down, stuck in your own end. So what he does will allow Gregerson, the better he plays, right, allows Gregerson to take more chances, because we've seen he can be dangerous moving the ball up the field on his own if he finds the space, but also with Slisz maybe abandoning and getting pushed forward and helping out in the attack. It all plays together, and I do think we saw growth from the first game against Columbus, and a lot of that has to do with Almada as well, getting the ball to his feet. Let me say this about Thiago Almada, because he's one of the guys that can be most frustrating for me, because we know what he can do. Okay. And sometimes there are just games where you don't really see his impact until the 70th minute or until later on. That was not the case at all against New England. I mean, by the 25th minute, you were starting to see him be incredibly dangerous throughout the middle of the field. And when you've got him cooking early on the way that you had, creating space, making horizontal runs, stuff like that, it just feels like they're going to come at some point. And in this case, they eventually did, even though you were scoreless for 44, 45 minutes. When Almada's in the game early like that, it makes me feel like it's going to be a productive night. And that's on both ends, because they can't sit back and transition high, the opposing team. They have got to do everything they can to get the ball off of Almada's feet at that moment. And that changes how teams are able to attack you, which is then, like I said, going to boost what they're able to do in the back. It was a stellar performance all around.
All right, I know, Garrett, you got to jump, so let me ask you, purple team coming up next weekend, what do you think?
I think that the way that defending has worked out against it looks good. It looks good just with the way that the defense has worked. I mean, Orlando is a pretty potent offense. You know, like they can put the ball in the back of the net. We saw a high scoring match from them on Saturday. So we need defending to be at an all-time high. And look, at the end of the day, if we can come out and get another 4-1 match against Orlando when the purple team comes in, I think that would be pretty nice. But I think the team's playing with a lot of confidence, and like Gonzalo Pineda talks about a lot, it's more about what we do more than anything else. And the best way to beat teams with strong offenses or however they play is to beat them with possession. And that wasn't necessarily the way that they beat New England on Saturday, but I think that's a way that you can beat Orlando next Sunday.
All right, Garrett, go to work. Get paid for stuff.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Garrett. So, Abe, let me ask you, now that we've got New England done, next Sunday, you're going to be facing a team that is, like New England, having to deal with the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza at the same time that you're having to balance, a Major League Soccer schedule. I know that Atlanta United fans, they see no pity. They give no pity. They give no quarter, especially when the purple team comes to town. When it comes to taking advantage of these opportunities, this is another chance for Atlanta to continue to climb the table, having to sit and watch during a bye week. This is a team that can be had because they're having to juggle these different things early in the season.
Well, look, I'm not going to feel bad about this. Atlanta United's going to have to deal with it when they get in U.S. Open Cup play. So all's fair through this part of the season. But, yeah, they're flying out to Monterey for a 10:30 kickoff tomorrow night. And so, I kind of wondered, and I didn't really get to bring up this point in the post-game show. It felt to me like New England went all out, balls to the wall for like 30 minutes and then didn't get a goal, and it just hit them like a ton of bricks, and they were out from there on. I don't know if anyone else felt this way. Felt like they were pushing so hard to get an early goal through the first 20, 25 minutes. They got that header that rattled the crossbar, and after that, it was like they weren't even involved anymore. And you have to wonder how much of that was, let's just push as hard as we can for a little bit, see what we come up with, and if not, because of the midweek, because we have a return leg, whatever, then that's that. That's kind of how I felt New England played out. And I do wonder if it's a little bit more of the same. Orlando City, New England played a mixed squad, right? They kept Carlos Hill off the pitch in the midweek. I don't know if Orlando City has that option. And so this is, it's going to affect them. Like there's no doubt they're going to affect them. And like, this is a team that was a scoreless draw in the first leg. If they want to continue in CONCACAF Champions League, unlike New England, who got the 4-0, maybe they can play it differently in their return leg to Costa Rica. Orlando City's going to Monterey, and they've kind of got to push all in if they want to continue, if they have any desire in this Champions. So it is not going to be a little bit of a mixed bag where they can save up for Atlanta United. They're going to have to play their first teamers, and that can only benefit Atlanta United. There's no doubt about that. And then just in general, 67,000 fans, 4 goals, including Giacomakis' first Atlanta United hat trick. You're returning to the scene of the crime on Sunday. You just have to feel good. And we talked about it, John. Like, I felt good even with the 1-0 loss to Columbus. Like, you saw the momentum in the second half there. That picked up. It took a while to pick up a little bit, but that picked up in this game, the win over New England. And I expect it to continue being pushed forward. It's an opportunity with Atlanta United. And like, I know you got the Toronto trip lingering. Toronto's one of the big surprises early on here in the season. But then you've got Chicago back at home. Like, you've got an opportunity to really jump up the leaderboard here, the standings, the table, whatever you want to call it. You've got a big opportunity, and nothing less than 3 points against a rival in Orlando City is going to settle for me.
Yeah, I was there with you. My fear, the way that Caleb Porter was having to juggle his schedule, is that if they got an early goal, so let's just say for the sake of argument, if that Shankalai header that hit the crossbar went in, then from that moment on, Caleb Porter was going to take the entire Laredo garage of MARTA buses and figure out a way to park them all in front of his keeper from that moment forward. And it was going to be a painful watch for folks for, if you were following Atlanta United, or even if you're, hell, if you're even a fan of the Revs, you get that early 1-goal lead, you're having to go in the midweek and you're having to hit the road and take care of things, even though you got a 4-0 lead on Alajuelense. You're going to pack it in, and it's just going to be a slog to get through it. That didn't happen. You end up getting what happened in the 44th. But my fear obviously was allayed with what happened late in the first half. But, yeah, that was in the back of my mind, is that if Revs get an early goal, they're packing it in and forget it, and you're just going to be banging away at a wall for however many other minutes you had. Unfortunately, if you're for the Revs, didn't happen that way. Fortunately for Atlanta United, it did. No, I was with you there completely.
Yeah, and look, and that in those situations, that's when you need an Almada with a wonder strike, and we've seen him have that ability, get a foul 24 yards from goal and find a way. But the fact that they didn't get that goal, it did feel like we were knocking on the door after that header.
Yeah.
And it took a while to get there, and then in the second half, obviously, it went crazy. And look, I'll be honest, this probably should have been a clean sheet. I think the defense took a slightly different approach. Once you get to 4-0, you start to pull back a little bit. And Carlos Hill has a nice little assist from his brother Nacho, and then you go after it. But I think the defense was already in a different mindset. Like Garrett mentioned, the possession. Technically, New England ended up with the game with a possession lead. I think a lot of that was in the last 25 minutes when you were already up 4-0, and you just changed how you played. You didn't need to attack. You don't need to get risky, stuff like that. And if you bang the ball down the field and make them slowly bring it back up, then so be it. And so the numbers, I think, are a little misleading from that aspect. But yeah, the one thing you didn't want to do, certainly at home, but anywhere, is concede early and then try to battle your way back into it against a team that is willing to sit down. And Garrett mentioned it. New England's schedule is brutal. Like they've got some of the top teams in the MLS, along with Atlanta United, coming in future weeks, along with the return leg to Costa Rica. And so that there was like a little kind of air of gotta have this one sort of thing. And so I'm not surprised that they pushed as hard as they did, but they completely wound out of steam in that second half. And it kind of showed with as much space as you mentioned. Almada, Saba, Gigi was finding space. There was a lot of opportunity to counter Brooke Lennon. And a rare once in a while, Stian Gregerson got pushing up the field too. So Atlanta United, I don't know if it was part of the game plan that they executed, but if the goal was to tire out New England, then they executed that. And you would think similarly that's a plan for Orlando City.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that you have the lead that you have, and then 25 minutes to go, you bring in, or 25 minutes in, you bring in a guy like Edwin Mosqueda, and it's just like, all right, hit it, just go straight into fifth gear, screw the clutch, just go ahead and jam it into fifth gear and go, and you're running guys like Mosqueda and Tyler Wolf and Jay Fortune up against a tired defense that's been having to fight it the entire time. And I think that you sit there and you make an example of folks and sit there and go, okay, here's something else you got to prepare for. We got to lead late. We're going to put the pedal down still, and we're going to bring in these guys, try and catch this act too. Yeah,
this is a second unit that is dangerous. And you didn't even mention TRA, who we've seen can put the ball in the back of the net too. This is a second unit that, when you do get fresh legs, and look, you never want to take Giacomakis out of the game, Saba with what he can do, but it is not like these are guys who are there to see out the score. I mean, these guys are looking for their own as well. And when a team gets down like that, and maybe not 4-0 because they're not pushing as hard to get back in the game. I think they probably knew, New England, at some point, that this one's probably done for. But I mean, if you get one that's like 3-1 and they're pushing to get back into it, and you have these guys that are fresh legs ready to sprint forward, and you have all the space in front of them, they're going to get their fair share in those situations as well. They had a couple opportunities on Saturday. It ultimately didn't work out. Maybe that final touch wasn't quite there, but they had some opportunities. they're going to get their fair share too when teams push on them, and that's exciting too. We've seen in other years, and every team's going to have questions of depth at certain positions. I think that's only expected, but we've seen in years past where you bring someone in and you just don't know what you're going to get from that second team. You just hope they can hold on to the lead and pressure a little bit, make sure the defense can't push too high, that sort of thing. I don't get that feeling with these guys. These guys are going to get their fair share of goals if they're playing the final 20 or 30 minutes of a match.
All right, hit the promo for me. We got the purple team coming up on Sunday night, so go ahead and let everybody know what's going on pre and post.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one on Sunday. I think it's a 6 o'clock start time for us there with the pregame show, and we got the full-time report after a full hour afterwards. You'll be able to hear from Gonzalo Pineda, hopefully after another 3 points, a couple of player interviews as well. And then we're doing a roundtable with myself and Garrett Chapman. We welcome back in the voices of Atlanta United, Mike Connie and Jason Longshore. We take your questions, so make sure to send those out as well, right there at Abe Gordon, along with the other handles as well. We'll have all those for you. But I mean, look, it was 67,000 people, John, and it was an incredible experience for my first, not my first Atlanta United game, but my first one from the press box. So an incredible experience that hopefully we can have a little repeat of on Sunday. I don't think anyone would complain if Giakoumakis has 2 hat tricks in a row. So we'll be pulling for it.
2 hat tricks equals a sock trick in lacrosse, and we know that they're gunning for it. Thank you, my friend. We'll catch up with you next Monday on a quick turn.
You got it, John. Let's bring home another 3.
What he said. So, Abe Gordon, as always, great to catch up with Abe, and when Garrett can avoid work for a block or two on Mondays. It's always great to have Abe and Garrett on in the A block to talk about the weekend that was for Atlanta United and to let you kind of become acquainted with them, because you only get to hear the voices. And so here on the morning show on Mondays, when we can bring in Abe and Garrett, and we can sit there and it's like, oh, we can put a face to a voice and continue to kind of discuss things and let things flesh out a little bit. That's what we're here for on Monday. So it's at Abe Gordon, at GChapATL. It's Abe and Garrett hanging out with us here on the A block on the morning show. The other piece of business that I wanted to get into, promotional sense. Once again, here's the scarf. Our friends from the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, one of the great stories that is out there in the world of soccer, help them build their federation. And this is the scarf that we put together here at SDH. You can help out our friends at the Marshall Islands. You can go to their website and order it that way, or you can order through the show and through me. 32, get you the summer scarf. You want it shipped, it's another $5. If you want Abby to deliver it to you, you can do it that way. So a couple different ways. You can go through the federation, or you can go through the show. 32 for the scarf to help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation build their program from absolute zero. And got to catch up with them a couple weeks ago in Northwest Arkansas as they're trying to bring the Marshallese together here in the States and help promote the game and build the game both here and in the Pacific. So once again, there's the scarf to help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation right there, 32, and you can have Abby deliver it to you, or you can say, I'm a little further out than the Abstermobile can carry me, so 32 and an additional $5 from the post office get you the Marshall Islands summer soccer scarf as well, because you've done the jersey. I'm fairly sure you've done the jersey and the bucket hat. Now it's time to do the scarf to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands right there. So once again, you can contact me, contact the show, and you can get your summer scarf to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands. And if you go to the website, you can see Maddie model it. Maddie will be back tomorrow because she's trying to get in her last vacation before the stretch run here, where life never stops. So it's going to be a fun run there. But once again, you can help out our friends at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. It's also in the Discord. You've got the form that you can fill out that Abby has created to help out her for her deliveries and help out us for our deliveries. So there you go. The Marshall Islands Soccer Federation right there. All right. Let's get into the goals. We'll skip the first one. We'll skip the first PK, and we'll get into your thoughts, and then I'll say hello to everybody coming up in short order. But it was 1-0 on the board, and that was how it was at the half. Second half, everything opened up, and that's a good thing. So here's how it turned into 2-0. Once again, thanks to our friends at 92.9 The Game in Major League Soccer, Mike and Jason with the call for the first of the 3 for GG.
Action at the goal to our left. Giakoumakis behind and to the left of the ball. Looking down at the ball as the referee steps away. The referee blows his whistle. Giakoumakis up to the ball, strikes it, and scores! Boom, Giakoumakis! And Atlanta United, a team that converted the fewest penalties of anyone in MLS last year, has 2 in their home opener tonight, and it's 2-0.
That's how you end up with 2-0 into the box. Gigi goes, he gets taken out by the keeper. Saba would push the ball into the back of the net, but they rewound the play to the point of the foul. Foul ends up turning itself into a PK. Second PK in a row makes it 2-0. Then, from the run of play, you end up with the goal. I think that this was the goal that personifies why you invite pressure. Great start from Derek Williams. Goes all the way from one end of the field to the other, and it ends up being 3-0 because of this.
And he'll play it ahead now to Silva, and the break is on for Atlanta United from right to left. Silva dribbling across center circle, down the right wing, ahead to Brooks Lennon, out of the far corner, cross for Giakoumakis, header! Score! Goal, Lasso! Boom, Giakoumakis! And it's the Lennon to Yorgos combination again. 3-0 Atlanta.
But once again, let's go all the way back. And I'll tell you right now that this will be a part of Prescription for Victory. You'll see it on Sunday when you're there. If you're there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you will see this play again on Prescription for Victory. You always wonder, it's like, okay, why do you invite pressure? That's why. You got to see New England try to collapse on both Caleb Wiley and Derek Williams. Derek Williams dribbles through 2 New England Revolution players. And then that starts the transition opportunity, and like that, it ends up going the other way. You end up with Silva to Lennon, and like I said, Lennon was still on the run. He had not stopped. Ball is still rolling, gets the perfect weight on it, and Gigi puts it in the back of the net. That made it 3. They weren't done. And I will admit, I was in the press box by this time. And to be able to see this goal, number 4, both in person and on the monitor on replay, because when you're in the press box, obviously you get to see things live. But the TV broadcast from Apple is probably 10 or 15 seconds behind. So if you see something, you can catch it back pretty quickly watching Apple TV on the monitors in the press box. So it was 3-0. It ends up being 4-0. And if you haven't seen this one on social media, on the Twitter, so the Atlanta United account, once again, gorgeous work by our friends with Atlanta United and the in-house crew and the social media department on the edits for this one, the ending. But here is a ridiculous 4th goal, once again, courtesy of our friends at 92.9 The Game in Major League Soccer and Atlanta United.
Here's a chance for Atlanta. Almada letting it roll through Giakoumakis. Up ahead, Wolf just outside the 6. Dribbles to the penalty spot. Flicks to Giakoumakis. Crosses across the face of goal. Saba's got it now on the right end line. He'll pitch it back to Almada. Traps at the top of the arc. Shoots from distance. It deflects over to Giakoumakis outside the 6. Score! 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 Boom! Giakoumakis! His first Atlanta United hat trick.
Yep, and I'm going to do the rock thing right here. That call and that 4th goal, absolutely filthy. I mean, literally, once again, I'll pull the curtain back. In the press box, I'm literally looking at people, and people's jaws are hanging out. And I turned to somebody, and I said, that was filthy. And it was. Absolutely filthy. So, first hat trick for Gigi. I know that Atlanta United fans, if you haven't, you're going to be stuffing the ballot box to make sure that he's player of the match day. He damn well better. 4-0 at that point, and I had said my prediction was 3-1, and I figured Carlos Hill was going to get one from, say, 22, much like his first goal of the season. Sure enough, close enough, 4-1. But complete victory for Atlanta United. Once again, Gigi getting all of the 3 of the 4 goals, ends up with the Hattie, and absolutely ridiculous stuff from I mean, you look at that goal again, and you're just sitting there going, the control and the thought that went into it, absolutely just ridiculous. But once again, you end up with your just the imagination that you end up with on the day. GG was a perfect 10 from our friends at SofaScore. No real surprise, obviously, by getting a hat trick as a part of the deal. 84 minutes, XG of 1.43, 4 shots on target, 3 off target, 39 touches, 12 of 19 passing for 63%. 2 for 2 on his long balls, 4 for 7 on his duels, 3 of 5 on the ground. Fouled 3 times, and so that's Gigi's numbers for punching a perfect 10. Tiago on the day with an 8.5, XG of 1.21, touches 76, 86% passing at 50 of 58. 4 key passes for Tiago, 1 for 2 crosses, 4 for 4 on his long balls on the day. 2 shots on target, 3 for 3 on the dribble, 4 of 5 on his ground duels, lost his only aerial on the day, so 4 for 6 overall. Fouled once and had a pick. Also on the day, just to break down the numbers, Brooks had a 7.5. Stian Gregerson had a 6.8. Derek Williams a 6.5 along with Caleb Wiley. Bart Sleesh had a 6.9. Muyumba had a 6.7. Saba a 7.4. Shonde Silva a 7.5. We mentioned Gigi with the perfect 10. Coming off the bench, everybody punched a 6+. Tyler Wolf, Mosqueda, Dax McCarty, 6.7s. Jamal a 6.6. And Jay Fortune had a 6.4 on the day. So those are your numbers, your lineup individual stats on the day. It was possession, 44% for Atlanta United. Of course, when you get a lead, the numbers are going to be skewed. 21 total shots, 9 on target, 4 blocks on the day. Corners, 3 each. 15 fouls of the 24 were called on Atlanta United. Free kicks, 15-8 New England. 21-11 in throw-ins for Atlanta United. 14 goal kicks for the Revs. You had big chances on the day, 3 for Atlanta United, none for the Revs. You had the 1 shot from Shankalai that hit the woodwork. 4 counterattacks. Each counterattack ended in a shot. Shots inside the box, 14-7. Shots outside, 7 each. 4 saves for Gazan. Passing, 82% on the day, lower than the Revs at 86%. Long balls, 20 of 40, 50% on long balls on the day. 22 of 47 for the Revs, 6 crosses to 4 for Atlanta United. On the dribble, 10 of 16 compared to 5 of 8. And duels won 42 of the 76, so that's about 53, 54%. 8 of the 13 aerials won by Atlanta United, 16-9 in tackles. And there you go. So those are your stats from the 4-1 win for Atlanta United over the Revs. And once again, that's about as complete as you can get. So well done on the day for Atlanta United across the board. Now it's time for me to catch up and say hi to everybody. And what else is on your mind? Bart Keeler joining us in 10 minutes to talk stuff. Morning, Dell. Morning, Alex. Morning, Michael. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Niall. Yeah, thank God Sleesh didn't up at Lecce because what a mess. You ain't kidding. Morning, Four-Card. Morning, Tom. And Emilio says Frosinone is his backup Serie A team after Roma. This going back to opening kickoff where you've got the Lecce coach headbutting players and getting fired. Randomly, did you see the head coach? This is the Mountain West Women's Basketball Tournament. Mountain West Women's Basketball Tournament, and the head coach is asked about what they're going to do in the offseason to try and rebuild, and she said she got fired in the press conference. And he goes, I assume that's the last question, and then that was it. Welcome to March. Yes, Niall, lesson learned, lesson for the day. Don't headbutt people. Don't headbutt, kids. Stay in school. And yes, to be early is to be on time, Del. That is absolutely correct. So how could the game have changed if New England didn't hit the crossbar early on? Just the thought, otherwise nothing to complain about. I think that what you would do, Emilio, is you're going to continue to just try to tire New England out. because you have fresher legs and you're trying, and Caleb Porter's having to navigate. Now, you don't change your game plan just because you're down early. Like I said, I would have anticipated, as I was talking to Abe, New England gets that shut in from Shankali, they're going to back it down, and you're just going to have to pound them for the next 70 minutes to try to get something done. The possession numbers would have been heavily skewed, and it's going to be up to Atlanta to win those half spaces and the short spaces and get shots past the keeper. So I think that's probably Atlanta United would not have changed their DNA, especially early in a match. Probably, and like I said, then this is just conjecture. I mean, if it's still 1-0 second half, you're probably making a defensive substitution, probably bringing on another offensive player, because if New England isn't attacking as much, then you don't need all those bodies back there. You need that extra body to come forward. So you probably would have added another midfielder or another forward somewhere in there. Dell with the QOD. Dell is like, okay, what MLS player or coach would you like to headbutt? What MLS player or coach would you like to headbutt? That's an interesting QOD. I'm sure the list is pretty long, but whatever that list is, I imagine it's long. There are probably some coaches on it. I would imagine that some folks in the Northeast would be on that list, coaches and or players. Maybe some folks out west, considering that Atlanta United doesn't play the teams out west a whole lot. It might be more random folks out west than it would be in the East, but I can guarantee you that Eastern list is pretty big. And like I said, I know that there's some folks in the Northeast that are probably on that list, and a lot of them from the Northeast on that list in the Eastern Conference. Don't get near me in a media scrum. Forehead akimbo. I clear out folks. Actually, for me, what I would always try to do is I'd do an end around. I would always go end around and try to come in from the side. So all you're doing is you're seeing the reach with the microphone and maybe my right ear. That's about it. Tom, I will vehemently deny that I am all elbows and forehead akimbo. I will deny that. Yeah, Rich, Niall, I figured that was going to be the answer. Dell wants to turn around and bite Luis Suarez. Yeah, Dell. See, the thing is that Luis Suarez has experience in that, so I don't know. He might have creative ways to make sure that that wouldn't happen. So we'll see what happens there. And we got Dell and KFC discussing the Charleston Battery. We got USL Championship, USL League One to talk about. That might end up being tomorrow. And Caleb Wiley looked a little off on the left, especially versus heel. And you're having to go one-on-one against one of the top talents there. It's another learning experience for Caleb. So not necessarily, if you looked a little off, you're focused on that guy to make sure that he doesn't do anything. So I could understand if Caleb is locked in on task and having to figure out how to reorient once Atlanta United has possession. And remember, Caleb had possession, and he went back to Derek Williams on goal number 3. So Caleb was getting double teamed. He had the vision and he saw the space. He saw enough space to go back to Derek. You had the two guys collapse on Derek. So basically it was like a 4-on-2 or a 4-on-3 in that corner. So Caleb had possession right up against the near touchline, gives it back to Derek. He goes through 2 players to pass to Derek. Derek dribbles through 2 players coming back the other way to start the rush for goal number 3. Yes, 4-card, a boom for every goal. Yeah, Carlos Hill was pretty quiet. And it was not a loud day for Carlos Heel. Let's go through Heel's numbers. He punched a 7.9 because he scored the goal. 1 shot on target, 2 for 2 on the dribble, 64 touches, 43 of 52 passing, 3 key passes, 4 of 6 on long balls, 4 of 5 on his ground duels, fouled twice, 1 pick and 1 dribble pass. So yeah, I mean, he had the 1 shot on target. That's it. 1 shot on target, went in the back of the net. And so I would say that qualifies for a quiet day. Yeah, he looked frustrated, which says well of the defense. KFC made you miss the prop bet. Atlanta, no lack of gold. Niall loved it. Gigi was able to take a penalty. I think that was massive for his confidence. Yeah, and I think that, and I think you're spot on, because You want to get everybody. You want to get everybody on a night like that. You want to get everybody engaged early, and I think it sets a tone for the season as well. So, and it also reminds them, get that muscle memory back about how to put the ball in the back of the net from the spot, because sometimes, you can the body will betray you and the brain will betray you too. So I think that having both Gigi and Tiago converting, I think that was big. Tom, Saba left out at points numerous times, left wide open for a big switch, calling for the ball and ignored. At times we seem to want to force it up the left too much. But I think, Tom, in this case, against New England, I think that was your play. I think up the left-hand side against the right-hand side of New England, I think that was your play. And then but then you saw Saba come in. You saw Saba come in and tuck inside at times. I think going up the right-hand side for New England, this is what you were going up against. Carlos Hill, Ian Harkes, Nick Lima. Matt Polster would slide over. Polster ended up with a yellow. Henry Kessler on the day, and Romney also was very physical. But I think that if you had the choice, I think that if you had the choice to go past Heel, Harkes, and Lima to try to cut into goal, or Shankalai, K, have Polster slide over, have a physical force in Dave Romney, and DeJuan Jones, who had the worst day of anybody at the back. We saw what Lima was trying to be at the back for New England, but I think that going against Ian Harkes and Nick Lima with the speed, because Carlos Heel, then that means Heel would have to come back and defend, keeping him out of the offensive game plan. But going up against the youth of Harkes, and with Atlanta United's speed going up against Nick Lima, I think that's a matchup that you can take. I think that's a matchup that you can take, going up the attacking left-hand side for Atlanta, going up against the right-hand side for the Revs. I think I thought that was one that you could take when you looked at both of them. So looked at both sides. I think you could have done more damage, at least immediately in the first and second level, going up that attacking left-hand side. So I see where you're coming from, Tom. But yeah, looking at that starting 11, I think that working up the left, up your left, I think was the reason that you saw it. KFC, Saba was on time in case they missed the PK call. 67-727 was the crowd that was announced, though. Alex, like how Slish and Muyumba were swapping places a lot, built up too formulaic last season with Hosechu. Now you aren't as sure who will be where. Hosechu was basically your point guard. He was the one who was going to sit there and dish and be in control and have possession for you. With Slish and Muyumba, that Tristan, he's going to want to get engaged in the play, which means that Bartosz Slish, no problem laying back. And if there's a chance for Slish to get engaged, then Muyumba will lay back. So I see what you're getting to, Alex, with the give and take that's engaged there. Ricky, they're definitely trying to get full rhythm. Definitely good signs. Niall likes Derek Williams as a fit. Talent around him helps develop confidence. Niall thinks you can beat Orlando at home. Can be both strong offensively and defensively. And yep, Orlando, like I said, they're having to deal with the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. So, it's going to be interesting to see what the lineup is midweek and then on weekend. So we'll see what's going on there. So that's the early returns from you guys. Keep them coming in. Thanks for coming on and being with us on a Reaction Monday. Time to pivot a little bit, and we'll talk about what happened at Crap Dragon. At least that's the new nickname anyway, when it rains. The start of hour number 2. That means that Bart Keeler comes in. Not as late. Your Arsenal mug. Yes.
Because Arsenal is what? Top of the table.
I believe they are what's referred to as top of the table, sir.
Top of the table.
All right. So I know that we're going to talk. I was going to try to have this part of the discussion toward the end of your segment because that'll lead us into Prem and Proper. But since you're with your Arsenal mug, I'll go ahead and flip my rundown a little bit.
Okay.
Dude, you're the one that showed your coffee mug. When you look at the 3 teams at the top, now I need you to put your coffee mug to the side a little bit. When you look at the 3 teams that are at the top of the table, I know that the sprint is going to be a fun one for those of us that are not engaged with any of the three sides at the top of the table, Manchester City, Liverpool, and your Arsenal and your Gunners, you being a Gunner. What do you think these final 10 matches are going to be like in the run-in? How crazy do you think it's going to get?
Well, first off, Kyle Walker should have got a red card, and I think Ake should have got a red card, so they could have been suspended for the next match in the Premier League, which is the match that they would have played Arsenal. That said, I think this is going to be a real test for all three teams in different ways, because Man City, look, we know that they're a juggernaut, they're a machine, and they're at that point in the season where they are starting to ramp up and get points.
Mm-hmm.
However, Man City is at that point where winning the league is not enough. Winning the Champions League is not enough. And is that pursuit of everything going to cost them?
Mm-hmm.
Liverpool is in a different position because obviously they're playing one with about 27 kids under the age of 20.
I know.
But they're playing for a manager who, is loved, revered by not just the players in there, but the club as a whole. And then Arsenal is in a different space because we are chasing a title. We're chasing a league title, something that we feel fell out of our hands on our own accord last year. And it was. And this is a much different team seems to be a much different mindset where, we are resurgent at this point in time. We still probably could have scored more goals on Saturday than we did, than we ended up doing. But, and obviously gifting Brentford a goal was not great, but all three of them are in different mindsets. And I'm just wondering which mindset wins out, because for City, I know the relentless pursuit of excellence can be taxing, but Pep has tried this before and has been successful at it. I'm just wondering at what point do they run out of mental and physical juices?
All right. So since you mentioned it, well, I guess we'll go ahead and blend your Prem and Proper with your reffing down here. I know that you mentioned Kyle Walker, and I know that you mentioned Nathan Ake. I know that there was the late discussion about Jeremy Doku and what happened there in the no call. So you look like you might have had a busy day with reffing down here with that particular match that ended up 1-1.
Yeah. So I think when I was watching it live, specifically, Kyle Walker should have got a yellow card in the first half because he had two fouls of the very same type where he basically just comes in and cleans out a player, knowing that, and the commentary team did a good job of kind of pointing out how the referee, Michael Oliver, should have interpreted this differently, in that Kyle Walker both times did the same exact type of foul where a player gets the ball around the midfield line and he just comes in and, the commentary team said, oh, he's trying to win it or clear the player out. And I'm like, he wasn't really trying to win the ball. He was trying to clear the player out. And he did it two times in the first half. First one was, a warning. The second time probably should have been a yellow card. That's one of those things that as a referee, you need to be aware of for sure, is understanding the mindset of the player in that situation where it wasn't just in like a careless foul. That was reckless. That was intentional. And it's not quite stopping a promising attack, but it is stopping a player from trying to make an attack. And you do that a couple times, you should be yellow carded, especially in the same half.
All right. So then let me ask you this. Now, this is where it blends into reffing down here. When it comes to navigating a match that is as important as that one is, and you don't want to let cards and or behavior take away from the match in and of itself, because I know that there are those mindsets of, because of how important this match is, you don't want to, unless it's completely and totally egregious and you feel like you have to do it, you want to try to have the match decided on the field 11v11 instead of taking players off for repetitious acts.
No, and that's obviously what you don't want to have to do that. But again, you just said the key words. You want the players to decide it. Well, again, going back to the Walker incidents, he's decided he wants to play that way. And so your job as a referee is to make sure that that is not then unfair to the opponents, right? Him being able to just step on people without real consequence is unfair to the opponents.
Right.
Now, I don't think he had too many other instances of that throughout the game, but it's just one of those cases of, yes, you want the players on the field to determine it, but their actions also have to determine how you manage the game. But yeah, you don't want to be sending people off, but also it's just a regular league game. Sorry, it is. It's not like this is a tournament final. This is a league game. You can't really look at it that much differently than you would, Burnley versus who'd they play this weekend? Whoever they played this weekend.
West Ham?
West Ham, right? Yeah, the Battle of the Clarets. You can't just look at that and go, oh well, that doesn't need to be refereed different. I mean, yes, you understand that like you're dealing with players who are obviously of a higher caliber than those on Burnley. No offense, but it doesn't like it's not a championship final, right? Like that's you still have to remember that this is a regular all league game.
And you mentioned, teams at the lower end of the table. And you now have it started really with Chris Wilder at Sheffield United, where he was complaining, and apparently there was an incident a couple of weeks ago where he went in to try to have a discussion with the officials. And my first thought was, okay, why are you even going into the room to have this discussion or wherever they are? And one of the refs was having a sandwich, and while Wilder's trying to speak his piece, and it's like, bro, the match is over. Let him eat.
Yeah.
And so it started with Sheffield United and Chris Wilder. The world's against us, and I'm already being told that that the refs are sitting there and they're managing for next year. Nuno Espirito Santo for Nottingham Forest questioned, and this is from our friends at the Times. Nuno questioned whether there is a conspiracy to relegate Nottingham Forest as he hit out against declining standards for refereing in the top flight.
Yeah, I think the conspiracy is Nottingham Forest not playing well.
You would think. Yeah, I know. So he says, Nuno was incensed that Craig Pawson, the VAR, did not send Michael Salisbury, the referee, to the pitch side monitor and recommend a red card for a second-half challenge on Nico Williams. So Nuno says, quote, week after week, someone wants to put us down. Why always us? What's going on? I arrived in England 6 or 7 years ago, and this is when he was at Wolves and bored us to death. He said, the referees were amazing. I understand that suddenly they lost a group of very strong and experienced players, and now new referees are coming, and they need time and sympathy to become better, but we don't have the time as we are trying to stay in the top flight.
Don't concede 50 goals. So I'm like, I understand a little bit what he's saying. And yes, like it does take time for top flight referees to be top flight. And as you transition new referees in, it's going to take a while for them to be fully comfortable in the Premier League. Right. But your options are a 70-year-old, referee who barely can keep up with the pace of play, or a young guy who can keep up with the pace of play, but needs to understand and learn a little bit more how to deal with the top flight players. But I don't have any sympathy for Nottingham Forest because, one, you've done every single American you brought into that club wrong. So sorry. Two, you've given up 50 goals this year. There's your solution, Nuno. Don't and I know that's not all his fault because they started off y'all have given up 50 goals this year. If you want to look at any single human whose fault it is for you not being in a better position, y'all have given up 50 goals. That's you. And you've spent $1 bajillion and you're about to get slapped with financial fair play penalties because y'all have just decided to play, I don't know, it's not even Monopoly at this point. You're just wheeling and dealing for the heck of it. And you're not getting any results. That is a you problem. And this is the problem we have with referees overall is people want to blame the referees for y'all not being good. You're not a good soccer team. That is not the referee's fault. That's not the referee's fault that you can't score goals, that you give up goals, even though you kick out Matt Turner because he's terrible, apparently. You bring in a new guy and you still lost 4 in a row.
Yeah,
that is not the referee's fault. Okay. It's not the referee's fault that y'all lose. Okay. It's not the referee's fault that you can't string together more than 2 draws in a row, not even 2 wins in a row. That's not the referee's fault. You can blame them all you want, but at the end of the day, y'all aren't creating enough good chances and you're giving up crappy goals. You look like Atlanta United defending under Gonzalo Pineda sometimes.
Blending his shots this morning. All right, so since we're in reffing down here, let me bring it back to Major League Soccer. Sporting Kansas City and LAFC. We saw something very, very rare and it was intriguing to see it actually happen. It was the indirect free kick inside the 18 because Tim Melia did an uh-oh. So break this one down.
Well, I mean, he did an Sporting had a free kick that it was a free kick, I think, that they kicked back to Melia. And he, not only did he touch the ball a couple of times with his feet, he dribbled. As soon as the LA player came toward him, he picked it up.
Yep.
That is not allowed. That is a indirect free kick. That is that's pretty standard. You cannot pick the ball up when it is passed directly back to you from a teammate. And that was about as direct of a back pass and about as obvious of a direct back pass as you're going to get. Even if it comes off of a free kick, you can't do that. I thought this is another example of players like, why are you, the reaction the Sporting Kansas City players had to the referee having the audacity to literally apply the laws of the game that every single person out watching this game was like, that's not right. And so this is where, like, again, you're crowding and swarming the referee over something that is absolutely an infringement to the laws of the game. You cannot, as a goalkeeper, pick the ball up when it has been directly passed back to you. This has been in the laws of the game since before I was born, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember exact time that this particular thing came, but because you used to be able to do that. But like, what was the complaint, John?
That would be the $1 million question here. Basically, you did something you ain't supposed to do. But now let me ask you this: within the context of what we're seeing these days with replacement officials, even though we know that the VAR is the mighty and powerful Oz back behind the curtain.
Yeah, that conspiracy theory is going around. It's fun.
So my guess is, and this is something that you may experience, one way or the other when it comes to these kinds of things. Intimidating, and I don't mean this in the sense of intimidating, but crowding an official, crowding someone who is new at their job in a relative sense, and I think that that's part of it, where you want to try and influence a decision by, hey, if I get me and my guys and we crowd center ref,
they want to bully the new kid. Absolutely,
right.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bully the new kid, and I think Sporting Kansas City should absolutely be fined for this because it was atrocious behavior. This is stupid. Y'all did something like this. Isn't even one of those like questionable offenses. This is a clear, cut and dry, black and white thing that happened, and y'all are trying to bully the new kid. So I hate to stick up for the scab refs, but like this is a no duh. This is on like, what were we doing here, Kansas City? Get back and defend and get in your wall, because you were lucky to not concede because that ball didn't go far past your post on the free kick.
And that was kind of what I was thinking, that in these situations, you're seeing and I think that you've probably phrased it as best as it possibly could. You're trying to bully the new kid into changing his mind on something that literally is the laws of the game. And, I think that we're seeing this a lot in the first 4 match weeks in Major League Soccer, where you're trying to have these experienced athletes trying to crowd these referees to have them to try and influence a decision. And I understand the gamesmanship that's involved in this. You want to try to game the system to try to, get things back in your favor. But something like this that happened in Los Angeles, to me, it's like, there should be just a point where you sit there and it's like, look, come on. That one is so obvious that you shouldn't even do it, but you're still going to do it anyway because you want to try to game the system. And
look, this is something that is going on throughout professional soccer everywhere, is this crowding the referee. Arsenal did it on the weekend, and it's not behavior we should allow to keep happening, because it's going. One, it absolutely can affect to some extent the referee's ability to do their job, right? If anything, it's getting in the way of the referee managing the game. It may not get in the way of him making correct calls or not, but it's getting in the way of their ability to manage the game and keep the game at the level that it needs to be for a professional environment. But it's also just like, that's not your job, right? And that's where, I could see, and I think we kind of saw this with some new law changes of the captain have, a captain having to wear an armband type thing, where we may be shifting toward the captain's the only player allowed to talk to the referee. And that, I believe, used to be a thing. I haven't really refereed like that in a very, very long time. Someone older than me can speak to that. I don't remember, but it wouldn't surprise me for getting back to that, because at this point it's become, every time the referee blows his whistle, it seems like we have to crowd the referee and tell him that he's wrong, when the fact is fouls happen, right? Like, whether you like to believe it or not, you foul people. This is the same speech that I want to give every U10 parent is, I know your baby angel boy has never done anything wrong in his life, but he did still kick this player.
And when it comes to you having to, I think for you it's more handling parents than it actually is handling athletes in a situation like this, where
adults ruin youth sports. Yes.
Yeah. So you're having to focus on the adults that are the ones that are yelling at you.
But even still, I mean, kids do it. I mean, I gave a yellow card to a kid this weekend because he felt the need to just scream at me.
Whoa.
Like, he didn't say anything particularly wrong. He just hauled off and screamed at me. And I was like, you don't get to just yell at a referee like that. And I gave him a yellow card, and his coach was even to his coach's credit, he was supportive of me, because he was like, what? You can't do that. I mean, he was 12, and I'm just like, what are we doing here? You don't get to do this.
Wow.
And I let him get away with one. And the second time I was like, no, we're not doing that. Like, I'll and that's the thing, is as a referee, you have to understand what are the times where controversy is gonna happen, and you can allow players to vent their frustration, right? Because they're frustrated, they're obviously taking it out on you, even though they're really mad at their player for doing a stupid thing inside the penalty area. But there's also a line, and I think in the Kansas City game, if I was a referee, I probably should have been giving out some yellow cards to some Kansas City players, because it's one of those where this is not really a contestable call. This is, I mean, he did a bad thing. Not even a bad thing. Like, it's a bad thing in the sense that you're not allowed to do it. But it's not like he killed somebody. He picked up the ball when he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah. I know that you and Maddie went over the 5 new changes, the next edition of the laws of the game, which is coming out in July. Permanent concussion subs, competition option in accordance with necessary protocol, player and player equipment. You've got to have the team captain wearing the armband. And that was one of the things that it didn't really register to me until you mentioned it. Each team must have a team captain who wears an identifying armband.
Yeah. And so I think when Maddie was talking about this, she brought up the point, I thought this was something that already existed. And the answer is no. That's just an easy way that a lot of competitions have been able to denote the captain, because in real competitions, a captain does actually play a role, right? I mean, especially when you look at last night at the W Gold Cup, you have the 2 captains meet at midfield. They exchange little pennants and they do a coin toss, right? Now granted, at the U13 level, it's whoever happens to be able to be the captain that day who gets to go call the coin toss. And after that, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
So I do think that at the youth level, the idea of identifying one captain who's allowed to talk to the referee is probably not great, because I just don't think that the kids at that point in time have the interpersonal, intrapersonal, and communication skills to be able to handle a talk with the referee necessarily. So maybe that's only the coaches are allowed to talk to the referee like that, just because, I mean, look, they're great kids, but some of these, they're not going to be able to have a conversation with me to represent their team to fully express what they're upset about,
Mm-hmm.
But I do think this is something at the higher levels that we may be seeing a shift to. Now, I don't know for sure. This is just me speculating, but I do know that this is something that we've utilized in the past. And given the prevalence of referee crowding and trying to bully the referee, it wouldn't shock me if we're getting to that point.
Yeah, and I mean, have you ever just gotten to the point where you turned into a blackjack dealer? Because I know that's not in your DNA, but I mean, when you get to or have any of your friends been just like, all right, look, I've had it, bang, bang,
yeah.
bang.
I'm more likely to do it with coaches,
yeah,
who are yelling, than I am with kids. Usually with the kids, I just ignore them, and that kind of helps a little bit, or I'll just talk to one player and not all of them.
Right.
So, the rest of them kind of go away, and I just kind of get on with my job personally. But again, I'm not dealing with players being paid multi-millions of dollars to play the sport. I can't advise, some of these, especially these replacement refs, how to deal with Messi per se.
Yes. All right. So there's one other ref topic that I'm going to hang to the end since we've already done reffing down here for the week. Crap Dragon, otherwise known as Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego last night. It was an 8:15 kick, so it was a decent time for those of us on the East Coast to watch things on Paramount Plus. Yeah. It ends up with a really competitive first half. Lindsey Horan got great positioning, got the header past the keeper, made it 1-0, and that stuck.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this was, if you're the U.S., you probably were a little concerned with how easily we conceded possession in our defensive third, but you also have to be really happy about how easily we won back from Brazil possession in our attacking third and their defensive third. At the end of the day, this was a good final for the first edition of this type of the W Gold Cup. And to have, your two reigning continental champions play a pretty contested, close match is good. And it was entertaining. Both teams had opportunities. Luckily, the U.S. made the most of one of theirs. We didn't create a whole lot. That was probably a little concerning, but we got the goal. Lindsey Horan, the captain, heads it home. And, you're looking at hopefully the first of a couple of titles for the U.S. this year.
I think in the final three matches, you beat Colombia, Canada, and Brazil to win the W Gold Cup. Taking the tournament in its completed nature, those last three matches after the loss, then you take those three wins. I guess how different are you looking at things? I guess from the loss backward and then the three wins forward. I guess can you put a line there, or are you taking the whole experience and blending it all together and taking it as lessons learned as you go?
No, I think you have to look at it as a holistic tournament to learn the lessons that you need to learn, because I think the lesson is don't take teams for granted. Don't think you can rest on your laurels of just being talented, because that's what we learned against Mexico, and then we had to apply that against Colombia, against Canada, and against Brazil. I think that it's still the case that there's a line of demarcation in the women's game where you have good teams and you have teams who play soccer, and then you have bad teams. And the U.S. encountered a couple of the teams farther down the list, with Argentina and Dominican Republic. Nothing against them. It's just there's still that very hard line that is unfortunately farther up the table, if you will, than in the men's game. But when you played the three of the four good teams you played, you beat them. And the one team that you didn't beat, it was because you had a bad lineup, bad tactics, and a passive mentality. Well, if you fix those three things, you're going to win. And that's what we saw against Colombia, Canada, and Brazil. But congratulations for Mexico. They won their trophy of beating the U.S. So congrats.
Now, there was a point that was made where our substitute teacher for the tournament, Twyla Kilgore, had two playmakers in the midfield to work your way through as opposed to just one previously, to kind of get things orchestrated through the middle. And then it's like you feed to the center of the hourglass, and then you're able to work your way out and you have better options to the left and to the right.
Yeah.
What did you take? Was that one of your contributing factors, that switch to having that double pivot in the middle and then working into the hourglass and working back out, as opposed to having one where folks can collapse on that one playmaker?
So I think we did learn that the U.S., at least in this edition, this form, works better with a double pivot. Yes. I think it also helps when you have Sam Coffey and Corbin Albert, two players who, by the way, both played phenomenally this tournament. Corbin started every match that the U.S. won. So take that for what you will. Yeah. Sam Coffey, a similar type of she played, so we looked good. Jaden Shaw also in that category, by the way, even though she didn't start the final, and then a little concerned about that. But anyway, I think that was one of the big takeaways. If you're Twyla, looking forward, and then something you can physically give to Emma and say, hey, we learned this. And I think it is that the Corbin-Sam midfield works. And to be fair, that's also not a bad midfield pairing to try, because you have an Andy Sullivan and Emily Sonnet as well who can play that. And I think that was one of the things that we saw with Andy Sullivan is she can't do that job alone, even though Vlatko consistently tried to do that over and over again. It was very clear that once you put a partner with her in midfield, she was pretty effective. And so I think that's the big takeaway. The other takeaway, and I'm sorry, but we just need to hit it, is that Lavelle and Horan don't work together in the midfield. It was a little bit better against Brazil, but you had Lavelle playing mostly as like a left-ish inverted winger. And I think I still think Jaden Shaw performed that particular role a little bit better. But that's going to be something as we go forward is, Lavelle and Horan don't work together in the midfield. And it just is the unfortunate nature of having two of the most talented players at that attacking midfield position. We can't put them both on the same field at the same time.
Well, what I always like to do in these situations when we're coming out of matches and tournaments and such is go over the numbers from our friends at Soccer America that usually drive you crazy because of the systems that they use and the opinions that they have. Theodore Lloyd Hughes is the one responsible for this go-round, and he gave Alyssa Nair a 5.
In this game?
Yeah.
Or the whole tournament?
This game. Legendary Heroics given a much-needed night off against Brazil, according to the stats.
Oh, okay, fine. I mean, if it's because she didn't do anything, then fine. But
Peppered shots. Stella peppered shots from around the box, but failed to find the frame. A solid two-handed grab at the near post from a Yasmin crossed free kick unleashed a loud roar from the crowd in the 69th.
I think she deserves a 10 because it still carries over all the points that she got from last game. Like she got 100 in that game. So
no doubt.
It carries. I do want to say, John, I don't know if you saw this stat, but of the 5 finals that Alyssa Nair has played in, she has 5 shutouts. So that is a cool stat. And that's, those aren't just, all CONCACAF tournaments. She does have a clean sheet in a World Cup final. So that's something.
Yep. Starting lineups, TLH gave Dunn and Davidson 6s, Naomi Gierma and Emily Fox 7s at the back. Because, yeah, I mean, it's, it's like third match in succession, started the 2 Stanford alums as your central defenders. Defensive change was Crystal Dunn replacing Jenna Neiswanger at left back.
And I think the Davidson Gurma pairing probably is what you're going to be seeing most going forward. I still would have liked to have seen Alana Cook because I think Davidson and Cook both have the ability to make you gasp every time a lot of times throughout the game, they kind of have their whoopsies on occasion, but the back line was pretty solid.
Can we talk about the dime that Emily Fox dropped on the header for Lindsey Horan?
Let me take a swig of my Arsenal mug. As the Arsenal player gets an assist in the final, yeah. No, and that's the thing that I think, again, Twyla can hand off to Emma is if you can create a back 3-ish, right, or create a situation where Emily Fox is free to roam up that right side, you're going to find a lot of success.
You mentioned the relationships that aren't quite working. He gave Coffey and Horan 7s. Corbin Albert, he gave a 6, but he also gave Alex Morgan and Rose Lavelle 4s on the night.
Well, that's really harsh to Alex Morgan because I think Alex, throughout this tournament, it's very clear that she's still the best option at striker. And I fully put my hand up and say I was wrong about this, saying we need to move on from her because she does allow a lot of offense to flow through her. Now, I'll admit this was not her best night, but it's not like Soph was that much better. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I think Rose isn't playing necessarily her best position. So a 4 is fine. I mean, she was asked to do some things she's not fully used to. She's not really a winger. Her pace isn't going to be used there. She doesn't really have that. So, I get that. But I think that's a little harsh for Alex Morgan.
Yep, 6 for Trinity Rodman, and then your subs got 5s and 6s. Lynn Williams, Casey Kruger got 6s. Sophia Smith, Jaden Shaw, Midge Purse got 5s. So after her goal in the match yesterday, Lindsey Horan has had a goal involvement in 4 of the 5 competitive finals that she has appeared in, 3 goals and an assist. Mm-hmm. After last night, the WNT has won 10 consecutive finals appearances in a row that it has competed in. The last finals defeat was when?
2011 to Japan in the World Cup final over in Germany on a penalty kick shootout. So,
ding, ding, ding. You got it.
Which again, John, I'm just going to hit. people, yes, it's okay to expect greatness and to expect us to win, but that is an unreal stat. Again, you're talking about a team that made 3 World Cup finals in a row, won 2 of them.
Yep.
You know, that is, I mean, that alone is greatness. Like, we look at the Spain men's squad that won, you know, World Cup Euro, and consider them one of the greatest teams ever. We're not looking at Spain now going, oh my gosh, why aren't they at that level? You understand their peaks and valleys. And right now, the U.S., unfortunately, especially in 2023, was in a little bit of a valley. The goal is to now get back up to the peak. That doesn't mean you accept the loss, but that's just another stat of like, we're still insanely good.
Mm-hmm.
And we unfortunately had a bad 2023 tournament because we had a coach with inflexible tactics and a player pool that wasn't really fit to deploy those tactics. Also, Alyssa Nair saved that penalty kick.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so now we're going to do the blending and the handoff, because Drew has found a conference room that works. All right, so we got the chance to discuss what's been going on with his beloved Arsenal. We're going to catch up with Drew here and find out about Manchester United and the rest of the week in the Prem. But Bart, I wanted to discuss before you go, when was the last time you got your cards mixed up?
I don't know, John. Like, honestly, it happened yesterday. So I usually keep my yellow card in my front right short pocket, because that's my dominant hand, and I keep my red card in my right chest pocket so that I have to think about going to it, right? And I guess I just switched them when I put them in my pockets on Saturday or on Sunday morning. And the girl had 3 fouls in the first half, all of them really late, and I was, it's like, can't do that. I had already warned her. And so I go to pull out the card, and I'm like holding it up like, oh no, that's not it. Here you go. And immediately switch them back. So it happens.
No, absolutely. And so Emilio's asking, Emilio says he supports blackjack dealing in professional soccer matches. He says crowding crowds is crazy.
I will say, luckily, we didn't have many controversial things in the Atlanta United New England match. I know that the one controversial moment ended up being okay, so I think we're going to all forget it. But I think the referee wasn't incorrect to blow the play dead when the ball hit Gigi lying on the ground in front of the goal.
Yeah. Can you drop 3 yellows in 5 minutes without repercussion? Can you do that?
Well, I mean, like, in theory, yes.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, though, we might be needing a red card.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. So when's the next Soccer for US POD?
Hopefully recording tonight or tomorrow night, depending on when our schedules align. And then so you'll get that on Friday. Also, U.S. men's national team roster dropping this week. So we'll be talking about that next week in preparation for Nations League. So yeah, real quick plug if I can, John. For those of you who don't know, I am playing in the Soccer in the Streets charity tournament called the ATL Champions League. I am playing on Team America because we are playing as the old NASL Team America team. But if you feel like you're generous, please go find someone who's playing in this team as well. Abby's son is playing, and donate to their fundraising page and help Soccer in the Streets provide free soccer programming to all kids in Atlanta. So
what he said. All right, Bart, thanks again. We'll catch up soon, my friend. As he drinks from his Arsenal mug and gives the Irish goodbye. All right. So, Drew, now it's time to talk Prem and Proper, the review. And we can start wherever you want, and we'll just go from there. What's your lead for this week before as we get rolled into what's going on with Prem and Proper? What's your lead?
I as a United fan, sometimes it pains to have to admit stuff like this, but I tell you what, that Liverpool-Manchester City game yesterday was just it was just incredible.
It's all right.
So much fun to watch. 2 coaches, just master of their class, top level soccer for 98 minutes yesterday. And it's incredible to me how much Jurgen Klopp is able to get out of kids who normally wouldn't be playing in those types of games, in those pressure point minutes. But what he was able to get out of them yesterday for 60 minutes before, Salah came on and stuff like that, it completely changed. It just changed everything for me in regard to Jurgen Klopp. And yesterday, for the first time, I can't even remember the last time that Pep Guardiola was outclassed. And when he changed that back five to a back three, it completely opened up the floodgates for Liverpool, and they dominated the last half of the second half yesterday. They got away with one day as in Manchester City because I'm not too sure what a penalty kick is anymore. But it's City, so just add that on to the number of infractions that they have accumulated over the year. But no, I mean that's kind of what my take was on the weekend. Just how many miles, not miles, continents above and ahead these two clubs are than Manchester United.
Well, and Bart being the Arsenal supporter that he is, I mean, it is 3 teams, and you've got 10 matches to go, and you're only talking the smallest of margins, and
Yes.
I mean literally the smallest of margins with this group. We do have some Monday Night Football today, but I don't know how many folks are going to be watching at like 4:00 in the afternoon. 3 teams, 1 point. Goal difference could end up being huge. Arsenal right now 7 ahead of Liverpool in goal difference. Manchester City is the least of the 3 in goal difference right now at plus 35. So they've got some work to do. Next up for them is that matchup against Arsenal next weekend that Bart is already trying to prepare for. But, I mean, right now, you're Manchester United. You're in 6th. And, what came to mind for me, it's like you've got those 3, then you've got Villa and Spurs at 4 and 5. Now, there's a phrase that you and I know about a particular wrestler and his time in a particular federation. Before his time at WrestleMania, and he won his three-way dance at the Superdome. And he was referred to as a B-plus player.
Okay.
You're referred to as a B-plus player, Daniel Bryan. You're not worthy of a title shot. Where in the grade scale is your Manchester United right now? Are you the Daniel Bryan B-plus player? Is that what we're staring at with Unai Emery and Ange Postecoglou right now? Where are you in your grade scale with you being 6 points out of 5th, but probably still heading to Europa Conference League if things would be all things being equal right now?
It's let me just I want to two quick stats to go along with what I'm about to say.
Sure.
United have this really strange ability to win games that they're outplayed in, that they're outcoached in. And I don't necessarily think that they were outplayed or outcoached against Everton, but Everton had 23. I think City before halftime had 18 shots on goal. Yeah. Everton had 23 shots on goal for the entire, 23 shots the entire game on that United back line. And obviously on Andre Onana, who little just digression here. He is talk about a player who's come on.
Yeah.
He has really started to develop. He has really found a home between those pipes for Manchester United. He's kept us in games, whether or not, like I said in the 3D, whether or not we lost to Manchester City 3-1, it could have been a lot more if Andre Onana wasn't playing goalkeeper. And the same could be said for Everton. Check this out. In the last 10 games, Arsenal, 79 shots conceded. Manchester City, 82 shots conceded. Liverpool, 106 shots conceded. Manchester United have conceded a whopping 200 shots. Okay? And Andre Onana is up in the upper echelon of probably could win the Golden Glove because of the amount of clean sheets. But what world do we live in that a goalkeeper is getting shot on 200 times and he's arguably, the top goalkeeper in the league? So it just brings back to poor recruitment. Some of the players can't play that they want to play. And I'll tell you what, Braithwaite, Everton.
Yeah, Jared Braithwaite, yeah.
All I saw was a red jersey on him, because if he doesn't fit the scheme and doesn't come and play for Erik ten Hag next season, I would love to keep Rafael Varane, but could you imagine a partnership of Jared and Lisandro Martinez next season for Manchester? It would be incredible. But enough of that. I think the other takeaway for me from the weekend was one thing that I mentioned on Friday as well
Mm-hmm.
was the fluidity of Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, and
Mhm.
Alejandro Garnacho. Just when they started to click with Højlund, he 6 goals in 6 games, broke the record. He gets hurt. Bruno steps into that false 9. It took a game or two to get really used to that, but man, they played so well just together. Those 3 together, Bruno with the false 9, John, it really works for me. I'm not. I mean, I made it very clear, on my tweets and vocally. I don't understand Bruno being a castaway out on the right wing. It just takes the ball off of his feet and takes that playmaking ability away from him. But man, I really, really liked him in that false 9. With that being said, I'm sure Højlund. I'm hoping he'll be back soon. Nobody knows with this United Fitness Club what's going on with these injured players, because coming out that Ten Hag was promised to have Malacia and Shaw back fit by January. So he lets go of Reguilon. And now here we are with Malacia, probably won't even play again this entire season. So I don't want to hold my breath when it comes to, a proper time to expect Rasmus back. But I like what's going on right now. And, no Premier League game this weekend, but Liverpool coming to town. So I don't know what to expect, John. I really don't.
The rest of the rundown from the weekend. On Saturday, Arsenal kept the beat, 2-1 win over Brentford. Wolves beat Fulham 2-1. Palace and Luton a 1-1 draw. Bournemouth and Sheffield United. Bournemouth down 2-0, came back to get a point at the Vitality 2-2. We talked about Manchester United and Everton. Liverpool, Manchester City, talked about that. Burnley had the win in the grass, but then Ings gets a goal, and it goes from 3 points to 1 point. Burnley and Sheffield United, same number of points, identical records. I think Burnley's ahead on goal difference. Brighton beats Forest 1-0. You can really tell that Brighton is grinding with having to balance European competition and the Premier League, and you're seeing how it's affecting Brighton this season. Spurs over Villa 4-0. And looking at the table, and traditionally we sit there and we'll look at, groups and things like that and go, yeah, all right, that's group number 1, group number 2, and group number 3. We mentioned Manchester United. It's kind of like group 2B or 2A, however you want to phrase it. West Ham at 43, Brighton 42, Wolves at 41, Newcastle at 40, and then Chelsea right now, 36 points. They're in 11th, and they're starting that second tier on page 2. Fulham, Bournemouth at 32, Palace at 29, and this is where the fun starts.
Yes.
Brentford in 15th. They've lost 4 of 5 at 26 points. Everton at 25 points, Forest at 24, Luton at 21, and then obviously Burnley and Sheffield United with 10 matches each to go. They've got a lot of work to do. They're each 10 points from safety. When you look at the rest of this table, what sticks out in your mind?
But I'll tell you what an amazing ending, and what an amazing way to capture that point for Luton Town in the 96th minute. I mean, John, what was it? Everton, Luton Town, and Burnley. That's who I penciled in at the beginning of the year. I'm pretty sure. So we got 2 of them still hanging around, and poor Everton. I mean, they'd be sitting in the middle of the table if it wasn't for the 10-point deduction. Yeah, and absolutely, because to feed off of what happened, what was just said there, that's so true. I mean, Calvert-Lewin, he has just lost it. I mean, what they say yesterday? No goals in 21 games, 21 straight games. Everton, who we've known for the entire season to have I mean, we saw it for United. It's very hard to break down Everton's low block. They're very, very strong defensively, but that's just about it. So yeah, with that, but Luton Town, Burnley, John, I think it spells the end for the Blades. I think they're gonna go back down for sure.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I'm not sure. And this is what's exciting. For the last few seasons, it's been City running away with it or Liverpool running away with the league. But we've always had the bottom 3 to be a little bit more fascinating, to be a little bit more exciting. But now it's really 15, 16, and 17 that, to me, are who's going to be that last team out. Nuno coming on strong with Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
I just, it's crazy what he's been able to do with them in such a short period of time. If they stay up, I'm a firm believer of this. If they stay up, I believe they can make a little bit more noise next season, given some transfer fees, they're very young too, Nottingham Forest. But I know I've said it a few times. We'll start back up at the top of the table here with Arsenal, Liverpool, and City.
Right.
Listen, there's still time for Arsenal to Arsenal. We know that. But I have to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Arteta's got them playing some of the. He's got them all playing the way he wants. They're a cohesive unit. Kind of a slip up. One of the Brentford's not. They're not a shabby squad. So the 2-1 win for them against what wasn't non-surprising. But it's like you said, City's got Arsenal to deal with here coming up soon. And my opinion, that's going to be the one. That's the make or break for each team. Whoever gets the 3 points, or I just don't see there being a draw in that matchup. Where is that at? Is it at the Etihad or is it at the Emirates?
Efforting, please hold. If somebody beats me to it, then they beat me to it. That's perfectly fine. But I mean, I'm looking forward to it next week to see how it all lays out. The next time that those two play, where is it? Liverpool. It's like, come on now. It's like all I'm trying to do is click a button and it's not telling me where it is. So Spurs, Luton, Brentford, Manchester United, Liverpool, Brighton, Arsenal. Oh, it's at the Etihad in Manchester on the 31st.
Okay. So yeah, even with the timing of that, the end of this month, season's kind of, like you said, there's 10 games left.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make or break for both teams. I really do. I firmly believe that. And the only thing that can really slow down Manchester City is if Pep gets into his head like he did yesterday. There's no need to switch up your formation. I don't know what he saw in order to switch up that formation. And because as soon as it happened, Klopp was just licking his chops. He saw it, and he immediately released the Hounds. And it was a completely different game when Mo Salah checked in. But I got something interesting for this weekend with the FA Cup. United and Liverpool. We mentioned at the beginning of the episode, or the beginning of the Prem and Proper review, how great and how good of a coach Jurgen Klopp is. We see what he can do with a full 11. He doesn't have one. I don't see, I don't see too many changes coming from. I think he's going to go for it, is what I'm saying. I think Klopp is going to try and field his best 11. I think he wants to go out as top. I mean, he's got a chance. He's still alive in all the tournaments that they're in. He's got a real chance to go out on top. And I would love nothing more than to be the bearer of bad news and send him home crying just one more time. I don't think it's going to happen. But you never know what Manchester United team you're going to get playing Liverpool, because Liverpool really tends to score a lot of goals when that United squad's on the field against them. So who knows what's going to happen, but I'm excited for it. That's for sure.
Yep. And you just want to be the one responsible to make sure that Jurgen Klopp loses his smile. I know how this goes.
Yes. And like, we chatted over the weekend. I'm becoming very good at score predicting.
Yep.
So let me think on it for the rest of the week, and I'll have a score prediction for everybody on Friday.
All right. So 3D coming up on Friday. He is at Dickinson JR 18 on the 280 character app. Drew, as always, great to catch up with you, and we get to find out what's going on in your mind when it comes to Prem and Proper. We'll catch up with you on Friday when we get the new Prem and Proper, getting ready for a short weekend because of FA Cup replays. But nevertheless, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Thanks for hanging out.
No problem. Have a good week, guys. Talk to you soon.
That's Drew. And it's great to have Drew find a conference room where he can talk. He can actually talk. That's good. And thanks to everybody who's been part of everything this weekend and getting ready for everything on a Monday. Yeah. Tom, you're like, zero skill up front. Everton should have been 3-0 before United got their first penalty, but did not quite happen. So it's big. All right. So let's get back into Atlanta United and whatever else is on your mind before we go. Obviously, we'll get into more of Major League Soccer tomorrow. Go through reminder, though. We're not going to be a morning show. It'll be a little later because I've got to do some stuff at Mercedes-Benz Stadium during this time slot. So I will be at Mercedes-Benz. It might be a bit of a lunch show shortly thereafter. It might be a power hour. It might be a little later. But tomorrow, no live in the morning. It'll be live lunch somewhere in there. Just set your notifications and get ready because it'll be a live lunch tomorrow. And, because what we were talking about some of the stuff, the videos and things, Yeah, we got to tape that tomorrow morning. And so because of where we're taping, it's got to be done at a certain time. And so live, no live morning show, live lunch. So set your notifications tomorrow when it comes to SDH. And it was, obviously very, very cool to see a lot of folks at the tailgate. We're looking to see a lot of folks next couple of weeks. And obviously, maybe hopefully, things can change, and I know that the original plans are still being looked at for the supporters groups and where they get to hang out. But it was great to see a lot of folks, and I'm glad the rain held off before going in because the skies were angry, my friend, when we were out there, and it was great to see everybody. Great to see everybody again on Sunday. Ricky, Jason always says goals change games. When you don't score them, outcome is left TBD. Absolutely correct. And so it'll be an opportunity for Atlanta once again to put the pedal down against a team in Orlando that will have played CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. Chance to do that and get your work done for Atlanta United. Niall Gregerson is a menace. Loved his aggression. Then there's nothing wrong with being a menace, especially when you're 6'5" at the back. A 6'5" free safety, definitely something that you can hang on to. Pars, morning. Penalties help build confidence. Thing is, without them, I think we either draw or lose. Game state played a big role. Need to connect passes better, be more clinical. Failed backheel passes getting annoying in the turnover column. KFC, Dax looks spry. And that's what you're looking for with Dax McCarty. What you're looking for is a closer. You want to go late in the game. You go to Dax. You sit there and you go like this. You tap the hand, bring Dax in for 20, and you get that sandpaper to close the door. That's what you're looking for from that role. I know that we were looking for the same thing from Ozzie Alonso. Unfortunately, injuries got in the way where he had to start. Remember, Santi Sosa got injured, and the original plan had to be thrown out. Ozzie had to start. And then Ozzie gets injured, and so then it rolls from there. But this is what you're looking for in that role: the experienced midfielder that can maybe spot start, come in, give you 20, close the door. That's what you're looking for from a guy like Dax McCarty, and that worked out. Niall, Gigi at an all-time level of confidence after the hat trick, absolutely. And Kefsi, Gigi, great human being with a footballer brain and agility to use any part of his body to score, strong enough to carry several teammates at once. Yes. Including, I think it was, William Bod jumped on his back. Hopefully he didn't hurt anything. And yes, so fortunately getting a lot of help, won't have to do it every day. David, morning. Great run by Saba to drag two defenders, give Lennon space on that also. No doubt about it. And Alex, Alex got the perfect view of goal number 4. Second, it left his foot. Alex shook his wife and said, "Tres dedos." But shook your wife? I hope she's okay. Yeah, and Hutch. Gigi must be Greek for threading the needle. Well, it was close enough. Good stuff. Emilio, not to get the pro people wound up. When was the last time Atlanta United received the benefit of 2 PKs? It's a good question. Replacement refs, no preconceived notion of player tendencies. And you are absolutely true that it is feasible that A. Dickerson does not make those calls. No, I think you're spot on, Emilio. I think you're right. But once again, what I would ask when it comes to these officials is however long they're a part of the process, that I'll say when our friends from the PSRA come back, that we continue to hold center refs, ARs, and VARs just as accountable as we're holding this current group. Just because they are a part of just because that you have replacement refs that are a part of the discussion now, I would request that we continue to hold the originals, for lack of a better phrase, those currently who are PSRA, that we hold them to continue to be just as accountable as you are when you're looking at the refs and the ARs with the veteran VARs in their ear, or in some cases this past weekend not. Just hold the refs, the center refs, and the ARs and the VARs just as accountable then when they come back as in addition to what you're doing right now. That's my only request in this. Like I said, I don't have any empirical evidence about differences in numbers. I know that There were numbers put out there that they were coming into this weekend. It was 22 versus 2 when it came to VAR review. But remember, that's upstairs. VAR will sit there and they'll either buzz you or they'll tell you to come to the monitor or they'll tell you in your ear, okay, this needs to be fixed. You run the risk of over officiating by doing those kinds of things. They're re-officiating the call on the field because your VARs are more veteran. I don't think that's redundant. They are more veteran in calling Major League Soccer than those who are currently there. So keep an eye on all of this stuff as we continue to have all that go forward. Yeah, Alex, looking at the SOFA score, Holland scores 4, gets a 9.7. Gigi got a hat trick, got a 10. Tom, 5th player in Major League Soccer, 20 goals, less than 2,000 minutes. And there's some wild names on that list. It's like Stern John was on that list. That's how far back we're going when it comes to all of this stuff. Morning Ropes. Carmel, let's see the standings. You want the standings? I'm guessing that this is Major League Soccer. So going into the standings, and once again, you've got folks that are that you've got Miami that's already played 4 matches. Miami's played 4 matches. They're at the top of the table on goals scored with 10. 7 points. Miami, Montreal, Columbus, New York, and Toronto. All at 7 points. Everybody but Miami's played 3 matches. DC, Cincinnati at 5. Charlotte's at 4. Atlanta currently 9th at 3, but they've only played 2 matches. So basically, they've got a match in hand. Philly has the 1 match that was abandoned. No makeup date yet announced with Seattle. You've got to figure out your hemispheric competitions. And then there was one, I think, that had been posited where there's a weekend match for Seattle playing in D.C. later on in the calendar. And so they're thinking maybe a midweek where, since they're in D.C., they can just trot up to Philly and do it there. Nashville's at 3 points. Chicago, Orlando at 1 point through 3 matches. And NYC and New England have no points through 3 matches as well. NYC is at -4 in goal difference, and New England is at -6 in goal difference. Out west, Portland, Minnesota, 7 points. Didn't figure on Minnesota at all. LA, meaning LAG, and all caps are at 5. Vancouver, Salt Lake, Colorado, LAFC, they're all at 4. And various tiebreakers get you through there. Also, it is Austin at 2, Seattle once again with the abandoned match. Houston's at 1 point, and San Jose is at no points. 2 goals scored, 7 allowed, and so that's where we are with the standings. Yeah, apparently Ropes wants to bite Jim Curtin, and yeah, Caleb did. I think Caleb kept heel quiet. And you look at the numbers, like I said, Caleb didn't pop up a whole lot in discussions on Saturday night and Sunday morning. Sometimes you're an offensive lineman. Sometimes you're active in the play. Sometimes you're marking some of the better players, and they're not getting a whole lot of chances. So that's how it rolls. Yeah, Ropes. Don't forget, if you have not joined the Fantasy League, Jason Wright Agency, Jason Wright AGEN on the 280 character app, the Jason Wright with a W Agency on Twitter. Don't forget to join the Fantasy League and be a part of the discussions. The Pro Rel League teams have been announced. I think that starts next match week, but you can still join the Fantasy League. Maddie joined the Fantasy League, so that's what you're staring at with Maddie. You can be in the league and go up against Maddie in the Fantasy League. But Jason Wright Agency, Jason Wright with a W, AGEN. Jason Wright with a W, AGEN on Twitter. Jason Wright Agency on the Facebooks, and you can do things that way and be a part of the fantasy for the entire season. So, Michael, in his opinion, seems like the center ref is being buzzed down more by VAR than regular pro. I would say so, but like I said, I think that's part of the discussion is that we have to be reminded that the pro appointed senior officials, they're the ones doing VAR. Alan Geiger's doing VAR. And so I think that you will end up with those folks that re-officiate or try to over manage from a VAR perspective because they are employed by pro and they're trying to keep an eye on things. So just remember all of that stuff as we're going through here. Just remember about who's VARing as opposed to who's center reffing. David, he knows that the gaffer blamed the new slower turf for it. Muyenba, Wiley, and Sleesh had some early bad turnovers. Most of the team had solid play. Wiley, Muyenba had some turnovers and struggled in possession. David, I was on that field early in the day, and there was a lot of tires. There was a lot of tire grind that was on this surface. And remember that I think that surface had only first been played on, I think 3 days ago or 3 days previous. So Tuesday or Wednesday of that week was when it was installed, and Atlanta United had Thursday, Friday to kind of get the feel for it. But there was a lot of radial tire that was there. I don't know if that's a byproduct of laying down new turf or what, but I will say this. Yeah, and there were some early instances in the first half where you're in the attacking third outside the 18 right-hand side. I don't know if you remember this, but Saba slipped. And I think that there was a couple of other instances where players for both New England and Atlanta had trouble with their footing in the attacking third in that right-hand corner. The near side, it would be the far side corner flag. Was it the far side corner? Near side. It would be far side corner flag if you're watching it on television. But there were times down the attacking right that you'd see some slippage. So I think that there was a lot of the ground up radial tires there, and it's just going to take sweepers and traffic and wear to get it to the levels that you're used to when you're staring at things. Emilio, Sleesh doesn't look afraid to move and pass forward, pass from Williams to him, then set up the field and and like I said, we're going to use that. That's going to be point number 2 in prescription. We're going to talk about drawing pressure. We're going to show this goal again and roll through Wiley, Williams, Sleesh, Silva, Lennon, header, goal. We'll go through that, talk about inviting pressure, just to kind of give everybody a reminder about the why when it comes to that. Let's see. What else do we have on the board this morning? Oh, teeth marks. I'm trying to quickly scan through, but now thanks for everybody for coming in this morning. It was great to have everybody in as we were breaking stuff down this morning when it comes to Atlanta United. Great to have Aben Garrett on this morning, and it was good to get to catch up with them. Good to catch up with Bart. Glad we could catch up with Drew. As we always do, we'll finish up with gossip, rumor, and innuendo and what to watch before you go. And once again, remember, you got Monday Night Football, Chelsea, Newcastle, 4 o'clock Eastern time. I think that's on USA. Sir Jim Ratcliffe set to approve a bid of more than £100 million for Benfica midfielder Joao Neves, according to the Daily Mirror. They're going to do everything possible to sign Harry Kane should he become available this summer. PSG manager Luis Enrique seemed to confirm that Mbappe's departure from the club by saying he wishes him all the best for his future after starting him on the bench for the 2-2 draw with Reims on Sunday. Liverpool shortlisted De Zerbi, Nagelsmann, and Amorim as candidates to replace Jurgen Klopp. Joshua Kimmich, linked to United, City, and Liverpool, is yet to hold contract talks with Bayern Munich, less than 18 months left on his deal. Arsenal willing to sell Kieran Tierney in the summer, but Arsenal wants $20 million for the 26-year-old defender. Chelsea yet to make a decision on Conor Gallagher's future amid interest from Spurs. Chelsea could look to sell as many as 15 players in the summer window. They have to get squared away with both PSR and FFP, profit and sustainability rules, and financial fair play. United intend to treble the salary of Kobe Mainu less than a year after he signed a new deal to keep him at the club until 2030. That's from the 3-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. And AC Milan remain in talks with Arsenal over a move over at Jakub Kivior. So that's your gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Who's going what, where, and how it all lays out. So soccer to watch and where to watch it, as we traditionally do. And that today, like I said, we talked about Chelsea and Newcastle. 1:30 Turkish Super League on BN and BN in Espanol. If you don't have BN, you can get BN by going to our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the show, helps them out at the network at Fanatis, and gets you all of the networks that can add to your true sickness when it comes to watching the game from around the world. You get BN, you get Tay-Say, you get For the Fans, you get Libertadores, you get Copa Sudamericana, you get Nuestra Tele, Liga 1 Max, all of that stuff. And I think the Ecuadorian League is now up and running as well. So all of that stuff at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. USA has Chelsea, Newcastle, 4 o'clock. ESPN Deportes at 4, Almeria, Sevilla. On the Plus, simulcast. Golazo Network, Serie A, Lazio, Udinese at 3:45. Paramount Plus has Asian Champions League at 3, and 3 matches in the Argentine Primera. Tigre, Lanús at 6, Bonfid, Sarsfield at 8:15, along with Independiente Rivadavia and Deportivo Riestra at 8:15. Serie A is at 3:45 with Lazio and Udinese, and that is a show. So we come back tomorrow. We'll talk about the rest of Major League Soccer, talk about anything else on your mind. Remember, no morning show. It'll be more newsy and more lunch. So it'll be like lunch. It's like the second I get home after the shoot at Mercedes-Benz, we'll set notifications. So think around lunchtime. It'll be the show for Tuesday and Tuesday Thoughts as we tour Major League Soccer. Also, tomorrow, it is the Battle of Five Forks Trickham, Parkview and Brookwood at Brookwood, 5:30, 7:30 on the network on our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. And you get to listen to Parkview and Brookwood, great battle in high school football, and you get to listen to it tomorrow in high school football. Friday, we are in Perry for Griffin and Perry on the network, once again, 5:30 and 7:30. Also, keep an ear out for a midweek game, and we're trying to lock it down, but don't be surprised if this ends up being another 3-match week for us here at SDH. Soccerdownhere.mixlr.com is where you can catch all the best high school action around the state. Tomorrow, Brookwood for Parkview and Brookwood. Friday, Middle Georgia for Griffin and Perry, and we'll keep an eye out for a Wednesday match as well. We'll let you know what happens there going forward. So that is another busy day. Thanks for hanging out with us for another go-round of SDH. For everybody that is a part of the show, like I said, for Drew Dickinson, for Matty Cruz and the ones and twos, he'll be back to Wednesday, I think. Then it is Bart Keeler, Soccer for US POD. Keep an eye on all of his stuff. They're going to be having shows out later in the week. And also to kick things off, Abe Gordon, Garrett Chapman from 92.9 The Game, as they break down Atlanta United in the A block on Mondays. So thanks to all of you for hanging out with us. We'll be back again lunchtime tomorrow to talk about stuff. That's the official term. And since it is the end of the show, it means we get to do this. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the network. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Set your notifications probably around lunchtime. Do a power hour, probably go as long as we can to get us set for Parkview and Brookwood. Play it safe, everybody. Mucho platial. End of the show. That means I get to do this.